Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation for the history of video games icon. Now, this individual that I am doing my report on is somebody that I think is one of the most who changed the landscape of video games the most in the modern era, and the man in question is Mr. Satoru Iwata. So, without further ado, let's begin. Sorry about that. So, who is Satoru Iwata? Well, Satoru Iwata can be described as many things: a developer, an innovator, a risk taker, a businessman, and at the heart of it, a gamer. Let's talk about Satoru Iwata's early life. Satoru Iwata was born on December 6, 1959 in Sapporo, Japan. Throughout his early days, he was described as a leader, taking on positions such as class president, student council president, and club president. He would soon enter the world of electronics with his own HP 65 programmable calculator, and he would make simple games such as volleyball and missile attack. He would soon be in the possession of a Commodore PET through his jobs as a dishwasher and through an allowance with his father, where in which he would dismantle it and study the machine in and out of a simply desire just to understand it. He would soon enter college at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, where he would major in computer science. It was said that Iwata could write programs faster and more accurately than any of his other students. Well, at least that's what one professor said. While in school, Iwata took an unpaid internship at Commodore Japan, where he would assist in software development under Yash Tarakura. Tarakura would end up serving as Iwata's mentor, and he would teach him much about hardware engineering. He would also gather a group of his friends, and they would go and rent out an apartment in Akihabara where they would code games in their free time. One such game would catch the attention of HAL laboratory employees at an electronics store, leading Iwata to his first job as a part-time programmer. At HAL laboratory, Iwata and his colleagues created a special hardware peripheral known as PCG, which allows computers with no graphical capabilities to display graphics. From there, he would go on to create rip-offs of Namco's Rally X and Galaxian, and would soon join HAL as their only developer. In 1983, Iwata would become the company's coordinator of software production and establish relationships with Nintendo so that he and his team could create games on their hardware. One of HAL's first commercial games was Joust on the NES, and some notable games that would come to follow include Balloon Fight, Open Tournament Golf, Earthbound, and the Kirby series. Open Tournament Golf had an issue where it couldn't fit on a traditional NES cartridge, and many companies believed it couldn't be done. However, Iwata decided to step up to the challenge, and it would end up biting him in the back, as he had to create a new data compression method for the game to fit on an NES cartridge. After countless hours, he was able to do it, and because of that, it helped boost his respect and reputation amongst developers and gamers alike. Later, HAL would go through its darkest times and be at the verge of bankruptcy. Iwata was then appointed to president, as insisted by Nintendo's current president at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi. Iwata would then be able to counteract the debt in 6 years as the acting president, and the company would soon be back on track. He also sought to teach himself about business while he was the president through books and seeking advice from others. Early years at Nintendo. In 2000, Iwata joined Nintendo as the head of its corporate planning division and took a seat on the board of directors. Yamauchi would soon go into retirement, and Iwata would be appointed as the first person outside of the Yamauchi bloodline to run the company. It was an interesting situation Nintendo was in when Iwata took the presidency. The current console at the time, the Nintendo GameCube, was lacking behind competitors, and and Nintendo had yet to make a move on the craze that was early online gaming. Though Iwata decided that rather focusing on graphical outputs and following the latest trends, he'd focus more on the hardware and the games. When structuring the company, Iwata allowed developers to have more freedom with their games and take risks on ideas that would have normally been disapproved by Yamauchi. He also promoted many of Nintendo's early pioneers like Miyamoto and Genyo Takeda to representative directors on the company's board of directors. Console innovations: DS and the Wii. To transition from the Game Boy, Iwata introduced the Nintendo DS with its two screens and touchscreen, something that was unheard of at the time. With Miyamoto spearheading development, Iwata wanted the DS to appeal to non-gamers, making a game which would be later known as Brain Age. This game would help skyrocket the DS's popularity, amassing 30 million copies of the game sold. He would also introduce many variations of the DS model while dropping the price to try and appeal to those who haven't gotten a DS yet. With the Wii, Iwata wanted to make a console that would appeal to people like mothers. A simple, slim, quiet, and efficient console was created, with Iwata foregoing traditional controls in favor of motion controls to appeal to a wider audience. With its main selling point being the appeal to a casual gamer, it blew up in popularity and was considered a breakthrough moment in the history of video games, as now the family market had been established. Financial trouble. Subsequent hardware releases include the 3DS and Wii U weren't as successful as the DS and Wii. It was hoped that these successors would help Nintendo with declining sales, but sales would continue to weaken. Iwata knew that the times were changing, but he still wanted to focus the business as a core family-friendly company. The Wii U's HD graphics placed unexpected strain on development teams and led to many software delays in the early points of the Wii U's life. The 3DS's 3D gimmick was just that, a gimmick, and many would lose interest in the 3D aspect of the console in its early years as well. Nintendo would report net losses in 2012 and 2014, with Iwata voluntarily cutting his salary to keep current Nintendo employees employed. Losses continued throughout the generation, with small bursts in with games such as Pokemon Omega Ruby / Alpha Sapphire and Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 3DS / Wii U. Iwata would also develop a new line of toys that would connect with Nintendo's games. This idea would soon become the Amiibo series, which would be very successful in its first year. Iwata's last years at Nintendo. During his time at Nintendo, Iwata would work on side projects he had, which includes public relations. One of his most notable public relations project was the Nintendo Direct, which was a series of online press conferences open to all that revealed a lot of information about upcoming Nintendo games and products. This would become very successful and serve as the lead way of communication between Nintendo and its consumers to this day. He would also host a series called Iwata Asks, where he would describe insights on Nintendo's employees, games, and hardware. However, as the years went by, Iwata would start to decline in health and would cancel many scheduled meetings, such as E3 2014. He would have many surgeries and would make his best effort to go back to work, even working on his hospital bed to advise Tsunetsuka Ishihara on development of Pokemon Go. Unfortunately, he would succumb to his disease and would pass away due to complications from his tumor on July 11th at the age of 55 at Kyoto University Hospital. A great tribute would pour in worldwide from fans, and many prominent Nintendo figures would appear at his funeral. Throughout his life, Iwata was an innovator and risk taker, and always prioritized fun at the center of everything Nintendo does. Without people like Satoru Iwata, the landscape of video games would never be the way it is today. And that is the end of my report on Satoru Iwata. Thank you for watching, and that's the end of this video. Thank you.